Hello, kids, and a good afternoon. May I be the first to say it's 12:06 on a Friday, March 24th, 2023. It's rainy, it's overcast, it's kind of nasty in Middle Tennessee. It's our episode 305 of the Matt Murphy Show. I'll try to brighten up that afternoon as best I can before we hand off to Brian Wilson and The Drive at 3 o'clock today. I hope you're able to spend each and every moment with us. We've 180 minutes, and I hope you get every single one of them in on this day, and we've lots to discuss. Obviously, there's political news coming out of Washington, D.C., and out of New York City. Actually, no news coming out of New York City. The DA, the prosecutor in that case, Alvin Bragg, outside of the artificial intelligence that's speaking for him, he has gone suspiciously quiet on his effort to indict the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, as you might expect, because the case is flimsy as the day is long. We will speak on that with Jay St. Clair, our weekly guest at 1 o'clock this afternoon. I love having Jay in on Fridays. We enjoy the legal conversation. Most importantly, we enjoy your questions and your thoughts, comments, and you can get those in 615-737-9986. Don't do it until 1 o'clock, though, because if you start doing the questions now, well, certainly on the air, online, but if you start throwing them out on the super text line, they'll get swarmed under other comments and other conversations that go on, and I'll forget about them and I won't be able to find them. And Dan Mandis has repeatedly instructed me as to how to side note some of the super texts that I want to re-reference, and I'm unable to do it. I don't know anything about machinery. Speaking of Dan Mandis, I want to remind you guys right on the top that we have several tickets still for sale. There is a limited capacity in Murfreesboro, by the way. I don't know what that limit is, but it exists at the Parthenon Grill, and you are invited to come along with your friends and be a part of a very special night with Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I beg of you particularly, please, when you sign up, if there's some way for you to say, hey, I did this for Matt Murphy, will you do that? Because Mandis is on me, man. He's like, Murphy, you're getting none of your people to come out to Murfreesboro. What do you don't have any fans? Well, I don't pretend that I do. But I do have people that feel sorry for me. And if you are one of those people, go ahead to 997WTN.com and sign up. It'll be a lot of fun, in all seriousness. It's next Thursday, Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro. A lot of folks down in Murfreesboro said, when y'all coming down here? Well, here we are. It's a delicious dinner and a live broadcast. It starts at 6 o'clock. I think Brian Wilson is on from 3 until 6. He's doing his entire show down there, obviously. And then the rest of us take over at 6. We'll be on till about 8. Tickets will include an entree of your choice. I think it's between grilled chicken and sirloin, which I am told I've never had anything at the Parthenon Grill. So everything I've had at the Parthenon Grill is absolutely tip-top, and I've been told that the sirloin there is A-OK. And you'll get all of the sides, and each entree comes with a drink, valid for, glass of beer, glass of wine, or if you're not a drinking person, soda pop, sweet tea, whatnot. So come break bread with the entire crew. March 30th, that's next Thursday. You can sign up, get your tickets at 997WTN.com. What else is going on? We have Senator Janice Bowling coming in with us at 12:35 today. Senator Bowling has a number of issues that she has laid on the table in the General Assembly that I want to discuss, not the least of which is her failed medical marijuana proposal, which has already been tabled for another year. She also had another bill that she presented to a Senate committee that was killed involving state sovereignty. It's called the Senate State and Local Government, it's a state sovereignty bill that was presented in the Senate State and Local Government Committee. Janice Bowling, the sponsor of Senate Bill 1092, introduced the bill and provided something of an explainer to the committee as to why she felt it was important, noting that the nullification process is not a new procedure. It's been around for a long time. The new legislation would provide, quote, an orderly pathway for the state to use the nullification process. Janice Bowling is not wrong. Everyone is afraid of this because of the Civil War. I will put it right down there where the goats can graze on it. Everyone's afraid of this because of the Civil War and because states attempted to secede, which, by the way, was their right, although that right was denied to them. It took a war to do it. Those, obviously, I understand the nature of the complex issues that were being discussed during the Civil War, and I'm not trying to devolve into a conversation about that. But one of the residual impacts of the Civil War was this concept that the federal government supersedes state government in all things. Now, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, no doubt about that. But the Constitution itself states that that which is not implicitly, explicitly stated within this document is left to the states or to the people respectively. That's in the Bill of Rights. Yet we've completely gone away from that concept. And many people nowadays have this idea that all things federal supersede all things state, and it's really not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be 50 separate experiments. We will speak with Senator Janice Bowling about that at 12:35. I mentioned Friday at 1 o'clock. And Debbie Matthews, good friend from down in Columbia, Tennessee, will tell us what's going on down there. She's going to swing by in the 2 o'clock hour. So an absolutely loaded show. Not too loaded for you, however. Boy, you could turn that phrase any number of different ways. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to get in. Phone lines always available, especially on First Amendment Freestyle Friday. I will, in addition to asking Jay St. Clair to explain what the hell's going on in New York City, because he has a way of explaining it that is better than anyone I've ever heard, I'm going to throw him a curveball. And if he's listening to the show early, he will hear the curveball. And if he's not, he won't. And that curveball is this story that I've been trying to get to for the last 3 days involving Jack Daniels in a, watch what I do here now, in a spirited dispute. You like that? Jack Daniels, oh, don't you roll your eyes at me, Weber. In a spirited dispute, the whiskey maker Jack Daniels is going to the Supreme Court, taking on the manufacturer of a squeaky dog toy that parodies the liquor bottle and their label. Question for the court has to do with whether or not the toy maker infringed on the trademark of Jack Daniels. We'll speak to our legal expert about that in the 1 o'clock hour as well. If you're watching, and I hope you are on Super Talk TV, I promised that I would figure out a way to give away tickets. I'm still working on the ticket giveaway. It might have to be Monday because I'm trying to squeeze a couple of tickets out of Rich in the promotions department to give away for the Murphys. I know, that's what, look, already there's a bunch of heads are shaking like that's never going to happen because Rich is tight with those things. I'm working on it. It might take the weekend, and it might involve a credit card and a break into the promotions office, but I will do my dead level best to make that giveaway happen. So, but if you're watching on the television side of things, on Super Talk TV, Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, you might note that I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing a hat because I got a haircut. And I liked the haircut. I just don't
tell me you got the perm.
I did not get I did not get the perm. I
you got my hopes up and everything.
Yeah, I have the Cherokee blood coursing through my veins. My grandpa's Cherokee Indian, and because of that, I've got the fine black hair, and so without extreme product. I say product. My grandpa would roll over in his grave. It's called Hairspray Boy. No, it's product. Without the product in the hair just goes everywhere. So I had to wear the hat today because I got all dolled up for the event next week. Can't you tell? Look at this. Hold on.
Take it off. Show the.
Huh?
It looks good.
Doesn't that look great?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got all gussied up for the event. I thought that Chris Webber would like this haircut because it doesn't look like I got a haircut. You know?
Look all nice and pretty.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll get all shaved up too. Are you coming?
I don't think so.
I don't. No, that's probably good because I don't think you're invited. I think you have to be. I think you have to be around for a little bit.
Yeah.
Weber is here, so he's not invited to the proceedings, but everybody else will be there. So this happened to me real quick, and I promise you I'll get into some more important matters here in just a second. But this just happened to me, and I'm wondering if it happens to other people. It happens with a lot of regularity. So I stop into the MAPCO to grab myself a soda pop in advance of the show. I'm on Lebanon Pike. And I happen to have cash because I got cash out of the ATM to pay my haircut guy because I like to pay my haircut guy in cash. And so I don't often have cash, but I had cash. And when I do have cash, I have a 22-plus year campaign going on against pennies. For the life of me, I do not understand why more of you Do not rise up in revolution against the penny. The penny is a useless thing. Don't tell me it's not. It is. And my solution is simple. That at the point of, you still use the penny as your monetary standard, but at the point of purchase, at the end of your purchase, whatever your purchase is, you either round up or round down to the nearest 5, and you eliminate pennies out of your life. Did you know, for example, and I could go on a diatribe for the next 3 hours, that the penny cost more than a penny to make? And it's not even close at this point. I think it's like 1.25 cents. Every time a penny rolls off the old assembly line at whatever mint they're coming from, that penny, which is worth a penny, cost 1.25 pennies to make. What sense does that make? It doesn't make any sense. Secondarily, people think they're going to get screwed at the point of sale. No. You use the penny as a baseline, you get to the final cost of the item, and let's say the final cost of the item is $9.28. You round up to the 0. If it's $9.27, you round down to the 5. Okay? And it all worked. And by the way, the most that you'll get screwed is 2 cents. And isn't that worth never having pennies in your life again? Over 80% of the pennies in existence today are in homes and automobiles and gutters and not actually in circulation. And that is true. Over 80% of the pennies that exist exterior to our monetary system.
I want to know the guy that had to go around and count all of those.
All the pennies?
All the pennies in the sewer.
You're looking at him, pal. I did it. Over 22 years, I have a campaign against the penny, buddy. You come out for the penny, you're against Murphy. That's all I know. So when I go to purchase an item at a local establishment like MAPCO, I will say, if I'll hand you, and in this case, I got 2 beverages, and it was like $4.82. That's exactly what it was, actually. It was $4.82. And I handed the woman a $20 bill, and I said, keep the pennies. That's what I always say. Keep the pennies. I don't know what it is about that phrase that confuses people, but it does. And more often than you would believe, and you guys can try this and you'll experience it and you'll say, my goodness, Murphy was right. And then you'll call me a week and a half from now and say, it happened. You say keep the pennies and they keep all the change. And today I said, keep the pennies. And the woman said, okay. And she counted me back a 5. No, she didn't have a 10. So I got 3 5s, and that's all she gave me. And I said, no, I want the silver. Just keep the pennies. Oh, okay. And she gave me back my 15 cents, which I promptly put in the little cup because I don't really want that either. But that's another story for another day. It just fascinates me how the human mind works, because I tell you, you try this and you'll find it. If you tell them to keep the pennies, half the time they'll just keep the change, which is different than the pennies. Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about, yes, Piers Morgan and Ron DeSantis had a sit-down conversation last night. I saw some of it. I did not see all of it because I was interested in the Tennessee basketball game. Sorry to you Volunteer fans out there. Now I got to root for the Florida Atlantic Owls for the rest of the tournament. I was going to root for Princeton, but now I'm left with the Owls, because after all, if they're going to beat the Volunteers, I was rooting for the Volunteers because my beloved Georgia Bulldogs suck at basketball, apparently. At least on the men's side of things. I guess with the women, too. So I was flipping back and forth, but I saw enough of it to comment on it. I'm curious your thoughts on it. Open phone lines as well, and anticipating a conversation with Senator Janice Bowling. It's 615-737-9986. Just getting underway. The Matt Murphy Show on a Friday edition. You asked for it, and you got it. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, you asked for a second location, and now, gentlemen, I am proud to announce that location has opened in Cool Springs. So, obviously, if you're feeling down or low energy, you want to figure out what the deal is there. And I encourage you to do this with Tennessee Men's Clinic. They are singularly focused on men's health, all aspects of men's health. But sometimes that lack of energy, drive, and enthusiasm, it manifests itself in the bedroom. And that's all I'm going to say about it, except to say this. The Tennessee Men's Clinic can help you. They will do so in a discreet fashion, and they'll do so in a way that works. What you need to do is make the call that so many others have made to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Now, I mentioned that they have their downtown Nashville location, but now a location in Cool Springs. So all you guys down in Spring Hill or Columbia or McMinnville or Tullahoma or wherever you might be, making excuses about not handling this situation, that's all they are, excuses. Cool Springs, open right now. Make the call that so many others have made to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or 615-208-9090. 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Threatening weather expected overnight, and we've got more news on the federal grand jury investigation into President Donald Trump. These stories are coming up at 12:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Matt.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you, bud.
Oh, I love the fact that I have news in the 12 o'clock hour. That's so good to me. Let's do this every day, Jay. Me and you.
Yeah, hey, talk to the big man.
Oh, well, you know me. I got influence, baby.
All right.
I got it going on. Yeah, Jay's got the news coming up in about 5 minutes or so. Matt Murphy Show continues, 1225, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So it was Ron DeSantis and Piers Morgan. I don't know that I would refer to it necessarily as a grilling, but it was, it was the most comprehensive sit-down interview that Ron DeSantis has done. Pamela Furr said something earlier today that was of interest to me that I did not realize. And if I misheard her, then so be it. I'm known to do that. But I don't think I did. I did not realize that Ron DeSantis would be required by Florida law to step down as governor of Florida if he runs as president. Makes sense to me, but it's something that I did not think about. But apparently that's the case if I heard Pamela correctly. And I believe that I heard Pamela correctly. So after months of, waving off Donald Trump nibbles, I'll call them nibbles. I won't call them taunts. Donald Trump likes to nip around the edges and poke and prod until he gets a reaction. That's kind of his MO when it comes to politics. He did it in 2016. To much success, by the way, but as I've described to you, I think the dynamic has changed considerably from 2016 to today. Obviously, we've got a more seasoned Donald Trump. You have people that kind of have become aware of how he runs his political game. And I'm not saying a game flippantly. I think you know what I'm talking about. But also Donald Trump was very much the outsider in 2016. So all the nips that he was giving at the establishment Republicans made sense. It makes less sense to me, and maybe I'm being obtuse, makes less sense to me now because Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. I mean, who else is there? McCarthy? Come on. I mean, McCarthy has a lot of strength and power, but he's not the leader of the party. Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is obviously the front runner for the presidency at this stage of the proceedings. The biggest threat that he has is clearly Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis has obviously decided that he's going to run for president. So after months of kind of trying to slough off some of the jabs and pokes offered by Trump, Meatball Ron, Ron DeSanctimonious, etc., Florida Governor Ron DeSantis finally hit back a little bit, took shots at the former president and his character and leadership during an interview last night. Piers Morgan, I like this too, and this is classic Trump, and I'm not evaluating it one way or the other. It is what it is. I'm not here to tick anybody off. Once again, I'm well established. I'm going to support the Republican candidate for president against any Democrat that they put up. And of that, I have yet to decide where I'm at on the primary. But it would be hard to get me off the Donald. Okay? But if anybody could do it, it might be Ron DeSantis. My analysis has been crystal clear on this, and despite my best efforts, it's not caught hold what I have said, and I will try it again. Donald Trump, in an age of liberal revolution, Richard Nixon became a shining conservative example to us in the 1960s. Richard Nixon, the former vice president of the United States. And as a result, the leftist media went after Nixon hammer and tongs until they got him. Now, Nixon gave them the ammunition that they shot him with politically. He gave it to him. But I believe that in the arc of political thought, ideology, and in the wave, the ebb and flow of politics, that Donald Trump is not Ronald Reagan. Donald Trump is Richard Nixon. He brought back conservative principles. Now, Richard Nixon was not is much more of a physical conservative than anyone is today. I won't say that. But Donald Trump and Richard Nixon neither of them were necessarily, quote unquote, physical conservatives. Physical conservatism has been dead for a long, long time. Reagan tried to bring it back just a little bit, but more on that in a minute. So my analogy is this. If Trump is Nixon, and by the way, I don't think Richard Nixon was a bad president. Richard Nixon got caught up in the Watergate scandal and tried to cover it up, and it bit him on the tuchus because the liberal media was out to get him. Does that sound familiar to anyone? So that makes Joe Biden Jimmy Carter, and that means that we are set for another wave of conservatism in the aftermath of 4 years of what is worse than Carter. And that person might be Ron DeSantis. Or history might change a little bit, and we might see 4 more years of Trump. I do not see a way outside of cheating again that Joe Biden gets a second term as president of the United States. All of that to say, I'm open. I'm wide open. And I want to see how all of this plays out. And you guys should pop the popcorn and enjoy the show as well. You do not have to pick. You do not have to turn one guy evil if you support the other guy. Many of you support Donald Trump, and you want to make Ron DeSantis the evil guy. Many of you support Ron DeSantis and want to make Donald Trump the evil guy. Do not take that bait. Liberals want you to do that. Understand that either of these two would be far and away better than any Democrat they could come across our television screens or across a podium or a platform. So, that said, we'll give you the rundown as to what Ron DeSantis said about Piers Morgan. Also, Senator Janice Bowling is coming up. It's 12:31 on Super Talk.
It is 12:31, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We'll have the complete forecast for you here in 2 minutes, but we are seeing some scattered showers in the area already. The strong stuff forecast to impact all of Middle Tennessee and southern Kentucky later on this evening into early tomorrow morning. The two primary threats will be strong wind gusts and very heavy rain, with a higher emphasis on strong winds. The gusts could reach over 80 miles an hour as the storms move through. Also, the tornado threat has increased to a medium category. Both the wind gusts and tornado risks, however, are forecast to be the highest west of I-65. The federal grand jury investigating former President Donald Trump's failed efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election could soon hear from some key Trump allies. Sources tell ABC News that a federal judge has denied Trump's claims of executive privilege, which would have blocked his former chief of staff and other aides from testifying.
Former President Donald Trump claimed executive privilege after special counsel Jack Smith subpoenaed his former chief of staff Mark Meadows, former director of national intelligence John Ratcliffe, and other top aides to testify in the January 6 probe. Trump's lawyers argued that communications with his advisors were confidential. But sources familiar with the matter tell ABC News Judge Beryl Howell rejected the claim in a sealed order last week, meaning some of the aides who already appeared before the grand jury but did not answer some questions related to interactions with the former president will now be required to return for additional testimony. Trump is likely to appeal.
That's Faith Abube reporting, and that's your latest news. The weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1238, and a good afternoon to you. Hope you're well. Friday, March 24, 2023, episode 305 for us. It has become a daily occurrence that I get a text message from 4782 telling me not to yell at him every day. For the last week, I've gotten them. Inside voice today, Matt. Inside voice, he said earlier in the week. I would like to go next to Thursday, he said to me yesterday, but I'm afraid all you would do is yell at me. That's probably true. I can't deal with your show anymore. It's annoying. You yell too much. The constant yelling, that is. Well, I love you. I wish that, personalities aren't for everyone. This is the same gentleman who wrote me earlier in the week. All I can tell you is I'm an animated guy. I am naturally a loud person. I am very, very passionate about the issues in which we delve into on a day-to-day basis. And I love you, and I want to keep you as a listener. But I can't promise you after 23 years that I'm going to change the style that I have. And if it's not for you, I don't want to lose you, but I don't want you to be annoyed for 3 hours either. So, there's a way to handle that. But thank you for your participation, and thank you for your concern. 615-737-9986. We'd love to hear from you either via the super text line and a lot of you are super texting about pennies, by the way. I'll get back to that. Don't you worry. But right now, we get to the Murphy Show hotline where Senator Janice Bowling awaits to talk about activities going on in the General Assembly. I promise not to yell at you, Senator. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
I didn't do it. I blame the new guy. Oh, don't you even try it. Just say I'm sorry and let's move on. Just take your whooping.
I am very sorry. She's back on the line.
I don't know. Senator, I have no idea what happened just there. I promise you I didn't hang up on you.
Well, I had no idea either, but I have had no trouble with reception, and I am on a beautiful mountaintop in Grundy County, about to go in a little after 1 to the dedication of the Coalmont OHV trails. So I would say it's because I'm on a mountaintop, but actually we have fiber in Grundy County. Thank you very much.
Is that's Tullahoma, right?
No, I live in Tullahoma. I live in Coffee County.
Okay.
Grundy County is one of my counties.
But it's Tullahoma adjacent. It's right next to Coffee. Is that right?
Tullahoma is a town inside of Coffee County.
Right.
And
But it is close. It is close to Grundy. I was just confused which county Tullahoma was in. That's all.
Yeah, Tullahoma's Coffee, and Grundy is 30 minutes, 45 minutes away.
Okay. All right. Very good. Beautiful country down there. Absolutely love it. And it's the best part of Tennessee in my estimation.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about the last time we spoke. There was anticipation that maybe the medical marijuana legislation presented by you would get a more fair hearing, or at least a hearing, and it did not come to fruition. Was that expected by you, Senator, or were you surprised?
Hope springs eternal in the human breast. I had hoped that they would at least listen, and of course they did not. The bill itself is an excellent bill. It's very well organized, and the reason for needing the bill is more than apparent. We've got over 3,127 people dying each year with fentanyls and opioids in Tennessee, and when we are not allowing the people to have access to a state-controlled, legal, intrastate program organized from seed to sale for a product that has been proven, the efficacy of the products, for decades now, and we would join the 38 other states that have already legalized a program under the auspices of the Rohrabacher Amendment that's attached to the omnibus federal budget every year that makes the interstate program legal.
Well, I'm a supporter of medical marijuana in as much as I've seen its efficacy over the years. I believe that it can be helpful. I believe that you can engage in the program. We talked about this the last time you were on. Without opening up the state to full-on recreational marijuana, I think that can be a completely different subject. So you for what it's worth, you got somebody in your corner next time around. I'm certain that you'll be bringing this back up again in another general session, correct?
I certainly will. The people deserve it. The General Assembly's dancing around it. They're saying, well, you can go out of state and get product and bring it back in if it's for these 9 conditions, and we'll give you a get-out-of-jail-free pass. Doesn't work that way, Matt. You've got to abide by the intrastate rules, and you don't send people out of state to get a product that you know would help them, and you refuse to provide it inside the state. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Senator Janice Bowling with us for a few moments talking about the General Assembly. I noticed also that you had another bill that failed in committee, and it seems legislation that is common sense to me. I'm talking about Senate Bill 1092, which unfortunately did not get past the Senate State and Local Government Committee. How would you describe 1092 to the listening audience, Janice?
It is a very straightforward, simple bill. Nullification is a process that has been available since the first time that we had the federal Constitution, because the states, in drafting the federal Constitution, made certain that there would not be excessive overreach, that the states would have defined rights, and that the federal government has limited rights. And those things were spelled out in the Constitution. So if the federal government started to overreach, and as Representative Halsey said, get out of their garden and start hoeing in the state's gardens, then this was the process by which you do not comply with a federal law that is not constitutional. That there is a legal term for it, and certainly we would have that available for us today. It's still available. All this bill did was to have processes for the governor, for the General Assembly, for the people, for local governments, and for the courts to operate and go forward using the nullification ability. So simple law, process, or the law, the ability is already there, but the process, this is just a way that it could be done, and this would not be restrictive if someone else engaged in it, but this is orderly and very available for the different branches and the different levels of government to engage in it.
Why do you believe that it failed? I mean, it seems to me to be reasonable in the sense that the Constitution clearly lays out what it's going to involve itself. I'm talking about at the federal level,
Right.
what it's going to involve itself in. And other than that, it is left to the states and to the people respectively. It feels like people are afraid of this because, frankly, because of the Civil War and because we've turned these concepts of federal authority versus state authority upside down.
That is true, and it has been very unfortunate and a strong detriment. And another thing, as I studied in preparation for the bill, Matt, back in the late 1870s, there was a dean at Harvard, and I think his name, I know it was Christopher Columbus, and I think Langdale was the last name. And he began the process of using case law rather than originalism, always before, as we proceeded with our Constitution. They would go back to the Blackstone commentaries. They would go back to English common law. That was the understood meaning of the words and of the law. And so he began to do case law. Now, Matt, did you ever play gossip when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah. Is that like telephone?
Yes, like telephone.
Okay.
And it was it's a simple thing to compare with case law. You compare in gossip or telephone, you tell something to one person, they tell it to the next, they tell it to the next. Similarly, in case law, there's an opinion rendered by a judge, and then the next opinion is based on that opinion, and then the third opinion is based on the opinion that was based on the opinion. So pretty soon you're so far afoul from what originalism would have, and thank the Lord, we do have a Supreme Court now that goes back to originalism. So they are looking at the law in the way it was written and in accordance with Blackstone commentaries, but not always case law compared to case law.
Some other bills making their way and making attention in the General Assembly involving the federal government involve education funding. I know Cameron Sexton in the House has made a point to bring this up on a couple of occasions on our show. And I'm interested, you're just consistent with your belief in state sovereignty. If you believe it's a good idea, if we can figure out in the state of Tennessee how to say thank you, no thank you to federal funding so as to get the federal government further out of our education process here in the state of Tennessee. Are you in favor of that?
Oh, absolutely. And because we get the money from them, we probably get a dime on the dollar, because a dollar or maybe even $10 will be used for regulatory compliance, and compliance in ways that are inconsistent with the values of Tennessee. And right now, with nullification, we are certainly enabled to ignore a ruling that comes down from the federal government that's outside of their jurisdiction, outside of their bailiwick. We do not have to comply with it in the state of Tennessee. And there have been several rulings, court rulings in recent years, and one in 1987, I think, was South Dakota versus Dole, in which they lay out the things that the federal government cannot coerce using money. And we can reject the money, we can do our own thing, and even if they give the money, they cannot coerce actions from us. One of the Federalists in one of his papers, no, actually it was Scalia. Scalia said that to think that the federal government can dictate to the state government is a big assault, obviously, on states' rights, which are built in to our constitutional representative form of government. So we are a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. We have the law on our side, and we've got to walk in it. But, for instance, if I could bring up another bill
Of course.
that's similar to what we're talking about. I had a bill the other day that simply stated that TWRA, Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, would the post officers that are in that organization would have to have a warrant before they could enter private property.
Thank you.
They would have to have a warrant. Yes. And so that's the Fourth Amendment, Matt. This is basic.
And I've only been, I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but I've only been here for a little over a year, and I know the listeners are tiring of hearing me say that, but I'm learning. I'm absorbing all of this stuff, and I was shocked to find that the Tennessee Wildlife, the TWRA or TRWA, that they have the ability to come on your property and search your property without a warrant, right?
Without a warrant, and that's unconscionable. It's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. If police officers, the TBI, the Sheriff's Department, the policemen, any of the other post-certified law officers in the state of Tennessee that are looking for child molesters, rapists, they're looking for international trade or international groups that are doing harm, terrorists that are doing harm to our nation, they have to have a warrant. But the TWRA in Tennessee, by their own rule only, can go onto your property and they will tell you they're familiarizing themselves with your property. Matt, that's absurd. It would be laughable if it weren't so tragic. So my bill just put them under the same law that all other law enforcement officers are under. I got a motion, but not a second. I was just absolutely flabbergasted on that one. So I will bring that one back as well. I will change the wording in a way that makes it explicit that there is a rule for all law enforcement, and for those that are actually looking for crimes against humanity, if you will, not things that just regard wildlife.
Well, good for you for protecting the rights of the citizens of the state of Tennessee, or at least attempting to. I'm surprised it did not get a second either. Do you have any ideas as to why this is, what the justification is from the TWRA?
They've done it for years, and they think it's their right. They have no rights that supersede the Constitution of the United States of America and the Fourth Amendment protection against unwarranted search and seizure. So, if any law enforcement sees a crime taking place, they can enter the property. If any law enforcement, there's some exigent circumstance, some emergency, they can go on. But just because they sound kind of like, what's his name? Forrest Gump. for no particular reason at all, they are going on property. And I don't think we want our TWRA post-law officers behaving like Forrest Gump just for no particular reason at all.
Senator Bowling, only a minute or so left. I'm way late on time, and I apologize for this, but I do want to ask, I mean, were you supportive of the vote of confidence or no confidence in Randy McNally being a secret ballot?
Well,
I mean, you can. I mean, hold on. You can laugh all you want, but don't the voters of your district deserve to know whether or not you have confidence in Randy McNally?
Certainly, and I have answered that question as many people have asked me personally.
Okay,
and
fair.
I was one of the 7. I think people assume that, and rightly so. I think with every position of leadership comes additional responsibilities for accountability. And I don't think that the people of Tennessee in my district think that was good judgment. They do not think that you should be encouraging a child in something that is dangerous for that young man. And so I talked with the lieutenant governor, and I expressed to him my concerns. And
well, good for you.
So I don't.
Good for you.
So I was a no vote, one of the 7.
Janice, I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate your time as always, and you enjoy Grundy County and enjoy your weekend. And we'll talk to you again very soon.
You come up here and we'll see you sometime.
All right, we will. Take care. There's Senator Janice Bowling. Back in a moment on Super Talk. All right, friends. So we know statistically that people wait years before they get something done about their hearing, even though they know that they're losing their hearing. There are a lot of reasons for this. I mean, maybe you feel like it will just not get any worse. Maybe you feel like you can manage it. Maybe you feel like, well, I'll just, I'll not do certain things that require additional hearing. I won't frustrate my family and friends. Here's the thing, folks. Ronnie and Brentwood Hearing Center have a solution for you. Whether it's watching television, listening to your favorite talk radio host, talking on the telephone, whatever it might be, the doctors of audiology at Brentwood Hearing Center want to see you because they have a device. These are incredible modern miracles. I mean, I had not seen a hearing device for years. And when I talked to Ronnie and he shows me some of the devices, I was blown away. And you will be as well. They have the latest hearing technology available for you to improve your life and to improve the life of those around you. So get with it. Go to BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's BrentwoodHearingCenter.com or 615-377-0420, 377-0420. Talk to Ronnie or one of his teammates, and they will help you. Better hearing for a better life with Brentwood Hearing Center.
Good afternoon. It's 2 minutes past 1 o'clock, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got some scattered showers, and it's 70 degrees. We'll get to the forecast here in 3 minutes. 18 months after announcing it, Ford Motor Company says it's still on track to start producing electric vehicles near Memphis by the year 2025. Governor Bill Lee was at a ceremony with Ford corporate leaders this morning to mark progress on the $5.6 billion project dubbed Blue Oval City.
It brings hope, and it brings opportunity. So more than anything else today is a new beginning with new opportunities for thousands of families all across West Tennessee.
Tennessee will build a college on site to prepare Tennesseans with an opportunity to be among the more than 30,000 people that Ford says they will hire at the site. Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown addressed reporters today to discuss the bipartisan Rail Safety Act that Brown and fellow Ohio Senator, Republican Senator at that, J.D. Vance, introduced in the wake of the East Palestine train derailment. The bill would put a number of new regulations on the rail industry. Senator Brown reiterates the need for the federal government to step in to ensure the entire industry complies with these safety needs, saying that he just doesn't trust the individual companies like Norfolk Southern to implement them on their own.
The railroads don't like the two-person requirement, which I still can't believe that. It's just common sense. The railroads don't like that we're going to increase the fines. The railroads they're okay probably with reporting their trains coming through, but we are going to insist they do enough inspections. They're going to have more workers.
House Republicans narrowly passed Louisiana Republican Representative Julia Letlow's Parents' Bill of Rights with a vote of 213 to 208.
Democrats believe that parents shouldn't have a say in their kids' education and to actually know what the reading material is. Democrats believe that was extreme.
The Republican champion bill requires public school districts to publicly post a list of books and reading materials as well that are available in school libraries and speakers that will also address students. And President Joe Biden's in Ottawa, Canada today, meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Before their closed-door meeting, President Biden remarking that Canada and the U.S. have no fundamental gaps in ideology to overcome in order to get things done.
All the values are the same. We disagree and agree on things occasionally, but there's no fundamental difference in the democratic values we share.
This is the first non-summit overnight visit by a U.S. president in nearly 2 decades. That is the latest news. Your weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Here we are, hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show. It's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our good friend Debbie Matthews coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. Can't wait for that. She'll give us all the lowdown, the skinny of Columbia, Tennessee, and beyond, Murray County. And yes, for you smart behind Super Tech, I knew that Tullahoma was a city, not a county. I got that. I thought Tullahoma might be in Grundy County, which obviously it's not. And I ran out of time before I was able to ask Senator Janice Bowling, the final question, and that is, I can only assume that that's where Grundy County auction came from, was Grundy County, Tennessee. I went down to the Grundy County auction, and then something that I had to have. I was doing 2 preceding caution. Hey, pretty lady, wants to give me a sign on one at a time. I could almost do it. Back in coal. Anyway, so it's hour number 2 of Friday edition of the Murphy Show, and I'll stop singing now. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate that. I mentioned Debbie Matthews coming up in just a moment. We'll talk to her about some of the goings-on in the state of Tennessee, maybe to include the Tennessee Sovereignty Bill. You never know. I have a favored portion of this broadcast on a weekly basis, and it's about to begin. It is 1:09. It is Friday, but we on this program like to call it Friday.
Good morning, Americans. It's Friday.
He's my good friend, my best friend. He is also a Tennessee man, graduated from the University of, went up north to Yale. He is one of the finest, if not the finest legal minds that you'll ever meet, and he's here available to you to answer all of your legal questions. He is Jay St. Clair, everybody. Woo! What's up, Jay? How are you?
Hey, buddy. You know, I am great, man. You know me. I'm a person of real simple pleasures.
Uh-huh.
And I solved something this week that has been bothering me for years. You and I have talked about this. I think you have a little bit of the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I've solved it, Matt, and it just pleases me to no end.
Well, do tell.
I think I have learned how to crack an egg without getting little pieces of the shell in the frying pan.
Jay, I think about you almost every morning standing in front of my stove, because I now have a gas stove in Mount Juliet, and I've got that little edge of where the gas, where the grate is on the gas burner, and it's a thin edge, and then I've got a flat part next to it. And you told me years ago that you did a deep dive research and that it is better to crack the egg on the flat part than on the edge part, correct?
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, but when I do it on the flat part, sometimes I get egg gook all over me, Jay, and I want to know what to do about that.
Yeah, I get that. Well, what I learned, and this will solve the gook problem too, I was cracking it too forcefully. I was just attacking it too much, man. You just barely want to crack it, in fact, so that when you pick it up, it's not even separated. And that keeps the gook where it's supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
And then you separate it with your fingers.
Uh-huh. Fingernails. Yeah, I got it.
The pan.
Yeah.
Or, and I heard you talking about this, I think this is from your days at Waffle House. Well, you said, well, Jay, surely you're cracking them one-handed.
Mm-hmm. I do mine one-handed.
Oh. Yeah, well, that's just showing out. But, and of course, I learned all this on YouTube, right? Anybody can be an expert in anything now. Just go to YouTube and find a video. And there's a video on there by a really good chef, like 2 million views, on how to crack an egg with one hand. And that's going to be my next adventure.
Well, I learned to do it at Waffle House, and I still carry that ability with me. I can also flip an omelet for anybody that wants one. You just have to season your pan properly in order to do that. But my days of Waffle House led me to a fascination about egg cooking. I have no idea what led you, Jay, except that you're just a naturally inquisitive person. I think it's why I like you.
Well, no, yeah, I appreciate that, but it was the pandemic, right? This is kind of odd, but I would get a sausage and egg biscuit every morning at a restaurant that's known for chicken. In fact, they have half of that in their name. But then when the pandemic hit, all that shut down, so I started cooking breakfast for myself. And I'd get this dad-blame eggshell every morning in my pan. It drove me nuts.
And you can't get them out of there. You try to get it out with your hand, and you need to take a spoon. And I know exactly where you're at.
No, then they'll say, "Oh no, you use part of the shell. Put the shell down in there, and it'll attract it to." No, once you get more shell in there, don't get the shell around a pan. Those me nuts.
Well, I am glad. I'm going to try it. No, you know what? I take it back. I'm already doing that. I've learned too that if you go in too hard on it, I mean, it's just disaster. That's
right. Yeah, no, I agree. Now, one thing, I'm thinking about, man, one thing you can do we'll use this technique, absolutely crack it on a flat surface, and to keep any counter goo from happening, you could just go ahead and put a little paper towel down there and crack it on top of the paper towel. I like that idea. I think I'm going to do that. I've had some goo.
This entire conversation is reminding me of Bull Durham. Remember that scene from Bull Durham? I held it like an egg. Yeah, and he scrambled the blankety blank. Oh, Jay, oh man, do you want to start? We could either start with Donald Trump in New York City or two of your favorite subjects, Jack Daniels and squeaky toys for dogs. Which one do you want to go?
Well, I think we got to start with Jack Daniels and squeaky toys for dogs.
You have argued a case all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm batting 1,000. I'm batting 1,000.
And you have batted 1,000 at the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, I guess in your experience, you're probably more accustomed to these types of seemingly silly things getting to the court. But it's really not dealing with a silly issue. It is dealing with the issue of trademark and what is a violation of trademark and what is a legit parody or satire. But this thing is before the United States Supreme Court, Jay.
No, it is. And here's what I believe is going on, man, but we can talk about this. There's, I guess, some other ideas about it, too. Part of trademark law is that you must be very diligent in protecting your mark. If you are not diligent in protecting your mark, you can lose it, even though you have trademarked it. And so I suspect the reason they are willing, Jack Daniels is willing to spend the amount of money it takes to take it up to the United States Supreme Court is their lawyers have told them, well, look, you have to be diligent about protecting your mark. And if you don't, you can lose it. I tell you, a company that may be the most diligent in the country of protecting its marks, Disney. Man, they don't let any. I mean, there was a homeless shelter somewhere down in Florida that wanted to put some Disney characters on their fence, and Disney just, nope, no way, we're not going to do it.
There was. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and there's some very well-known examples of companies who did not protect their mark and they lost it. Aspirin used to be a brand name, man.
Really?
It was a brand name. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was Coca-Cola.
Wow.
It was Disney.
Wow.
Yeah. And they didn't protect their mark. The people started using it, and they didn't challenge it or get them to quit legally, and so they lost their mark.
Use it or lose it.
That's right. And so I believe what happened here is Jack Daniels' very good lawyers said to Jack Daniels, it is worth whatever amount you have to pay in legal fees to protect your mark. See how lawyers do that.
I'll tell you, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but the person that, the business that I'm about to bring up. But I'll tell this story to our audience in Middle Tennessee, and it goes to this point of protecting your trademark and all of this. Jimmy Buffett is well known to be very litigious.
Yes.
When it comes to his songs and trademarks and whatnot. And there was a moving company called Changes in Latitude.
Right.
That had to change their name, Jay.
Absolutely.
Because he was very protective of that. Well,
for that reason, man, they can lose it.
So there was a business, and this business still operates to this moment in Pelham, Alabama. And I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here, called Margarita Grill. And it's owned by a friend of mine who named it, I think, after his grandmother or something or another. But he operated for a number of years at Margarita Grill. Now, that sounds very close to something else, doesn't it, Jay?
Yes, sir. It sure does.
And eventually he got what kind of letter did he get from a lawyer, Jay?
Well, Jimmy Buffett's got really good lawyers. They wouldn't send just a cease letter. They wouldn't send just a desist letter, man. I strongly suspect they send a cease and desist.
That's right, because you pay double for those, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he got a cease and desist letter. And the funny thing was, and he told me this story, and you'll get it right off, Jay, that he had the local Jimmy Buffett fan group. They're called Parrot Heads. Mm-hmm. They would go to Margarita Grill on a regular basis and hang out and have Mexican food and enjoy themselves. Well, they wrote this very passionate letter, and they wanted to send the letter to Jimmy Buffett's people, explaining how wonderful that the business was and how awesome it was. And his lawyer, the Margarita Grill, he said, "No, do not." And
don't do that.
And why would that be?
Trading on the name,
right? I mean,
you're making a profit.
Because the natural question is, why did the Jimmy Buffett fan club go to that particular restaurant in the first place?
Because of Jimmy Buffett.
You're proving Jimmy Buffett's case. Well, so what do you make of this? Now, let me give an explainer to the audience. So Jack Daniels, everybody knows what Jack Daniels bottle looks like, right? It's black label. Says Jack Daniels, Old Number 7, Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey, and then there's some small lettering about distilled and bottled Jack Daniels Distillery in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Well, this dog squeaky toy, it's a squeaky toy that looks like a bottle, is a brown bottle, and it's instead of Jack Daniels, it's Bad Spaniels. And instead of Old Number 7, it says the Old Number 2 on your Tennessee carpet. And instead of 40% alcohol by volume, it says 43% poo by volume, and it on the other side it says 100% smelly.
Well, they're very clever people.
It's very funny. Now we'll take a break, and when we come back, I want you to tell me if Jack Daniels got a shot in this case, and then we can talk about the Trump stuff. Jay St. Clair is with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN 121. We'll be back right after this. I took a course about a year ago right here at Cumulus Nashville involving self-defense, involving workplace violence and the prevention thereof. We talked about active shooter response. We discussed rapid response medical training. And I told Brink Fiddler at the end of our 2-day event, well, it was a 1-day event, but I had to go over the course of 2 days. I said to him, I need to talk about this on the radio. And he agreed. Because if you're a decision maker in a place of business, if you have employees, if you are a decision maker in a school, or a church, or really any place that people gather, you need this in your life. Defend Systems is there for you. It is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Nashville, Tennessee. They consult with music artists. I mean, music artists that you know. They consult with touring groups. They consult with facility managers. And they do it all for the purpose of making you aware of the dangers that are around us and how you can prevent those dangers. And they have first-hand experience in all of this. Active shooter mitigation, site surveys and threat assessment. And they boil it down, distill it down into a 2-day course or a 1-day course in a lot of ways that is so beneficial for you and your employees. Give Brink Fiddler a call today to find out how he can benefit you and your facility. DefendSystems.com, that's DefendSystems.com, or 615-236-6484, 236-6484. Remember, hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained with Defend Systems.
The U.S. retaliates to that Iranian drone strike at a U.S. compound in Syria, and an attorney for President Donald Trump testifies before a grand jury investigating whether the former president mishandled classified documents. Those stories at 1:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Man, I'm surrounded by awesome Jays. There's Jay in the newsroom, Jay St. Clair on the telephone. I love it. News coming up in about 5 minutes or so. Matt Murphy's show continues. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, here's your opportunity. As my good friend Jay St. Clair likes to say, legal advice is worth exactly what you pay for it, and free legal advice is worth just that. So you have a shot, 615-737-9986, to get your questions in via the Super Text line. If you want to call in, you may, but Super Text line may be the preferred way of doing it. And one of these days, Jay, we're getting you up here. That's what I say.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Pamela Furr was very disappointed when she left at 12 o'clock to find out that you were not going to be in studio. I think she would have hung around. I do. I'm just telling you. All right, Jay. Is this thing going anywhere? Look, my legal diploma from the law school I graduated is worth a lot of money. You know that. So,
about what you paid.
About what I paid in tuition, right? But this feels like it's a slam dunk. I mean, what do you say?
Yeah, for the poo people.
For the poo people, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because one of the elements they have to prove, Matt, is that there's a likelihood of confusion, that customers will be confused, that they will think that the poo or the plant toy really is Jack Daniels. And I just don't think that's going to happen. It's from that company.
But do you feel like the Jack Daniels people, based on what you said at the beginning of the conversation, do you feel like they might know that, but they simply feel like they have to do this to protect themselves?
Absolutely. Well, I think this. In fact, I feel quite certain of it. Their lawyers told them, look, you really need to do this. If you don't do this, you may lose. And I was just looking here, Matt, at some really famous marks that were lost over time for not aspirin, I mentioned, to Escalator. Escalator used to be a brand name, man.
Huh.
Trampoline.
Wow.
Was a brand, and they lost it because they didn't protect it. Thermos, man, was a brand name. Not anymore. And here, I love this one. Laundromat. Laundromat was a brand name.
Wow.
But they didn't protect it.
They don't protect it. And then there are some brands, and I think I have these correct. On the other side of that, there are some brand names that have become so common, like Kleenex.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brand name, and they have protected it. But it's become so common, people don't think it's a brand name, but it is.
That's right. Yep. No, that's very well said. And so, I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek here, right? But I'm sure the lawyers will explain to them, look, if you don't protect it, you can lose it. Just ask aspirin, ask elevator, ask a laundromat.
In other words, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in other words, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Jack Daniels said, how much is this going to cost? And they said, if you got to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it. How much is it going to cost you to lose the name Jack Daniels?
Right. So in other words, we might lose a small battle, but the next time there's a much closer call, we are much better armed when we go into that fight.
Yeah, because we have a track record of protecting our mark.
Makes perfect
We've
sense.
done everything we can to protect our. And speaking of which, it's kind of timely. I think Mickey Mouse is about to go into the public domain.
What?
Yeah, for even on that side of stuff, it's kind of like patents. I guess that's a trademark. It expires after a period of time. And Winnie the Pooh is now in the public domain.
Is that how they got? Did you see that awful movie? Yeah,
like some dirty movie or violent movie or something.
Oh yeah, where Winnie the Pooh had enough, and he starts just. Have y'all not seen that? Have you not seen that, Chris? Winnie the Pooh had enough, and he just starts taking out the 100-acre wood. I mean, he's killing everybody.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you. I guess that wasn't a matter of losing the trademark, Jay. That was just it expires and it expires.
It expires over time. See, that's why Coca-Cola, and that's one of my good clients, think the world of them. They had the genius. They did not patent the Coca-Cola recipe because the patent runs out after a period of time. They never patented it, but they've got it. Boy, you talk about a state secret.
So
they protect their recipe a whole lot better than those politicians in Washington protect the top secret documents.
I wonder if Colonel Sanders did the same thing with his 11 herbs and spices.
Oh, I bet you he absolutely did. For just that reason.
This is brilliant. This is why I love having you on. You teach me something every time you're on. So if you patent something, it will eventually over time run out. And
you can get Viagra now for $1 a pill.
But if you don't patent it...
So I hear on TV.
That's what they tell me on the radio.
What I've heard.
But if you don't patent it and you just keep your recipe secret, then you're fine.
Right, because if you patent it, well, you have to disclose what it is, right? That's the only way they can issue a patent. It's a public document. And now everybody knows what you're putting in Coca-Cola. But if you just keep it secret, don't patent it, then it's yours.
All right.
And, people, Pepsi can try to reverse engineer and figure out, how they do it. But, boy, they hadn't come very close.
Well, I'm a Pepsi guy, Jay. I'm just sorry to tell you. I know. I mean, look, we can't agree on everything. We're good best friends, but, I mean, we gotta go separate ways on some stuff.
Well, you drive a Ford truck.
Well, I used to. I'm a GMC guy now. I've kind of got... Look, I've got whatever. You know what? I know what brand of truck you drive, and you'd have to get on a boat to go to those headquarters.
No, I think it's made in Canada.
And I'm not even going to talk about what do we call it? Your European car?
No, a foreign car. It could be a Datsun.
Or something else. Jay, hold on. We'll talk about Trump in just a moment with Jay St. Clair and many legal questions coming in. 615-737-9986. The first one I see here. Question for Jay. What's his favorite food and dessert? Just wondering. Well, I mean, it's your question. It's your dime. 131 on Super Talk.
It's 1:32, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're still dealing with scattered showers, and it's 70 degrees in Music City. We'll have the complete forecast in 2 minutes. A U.S. facility in Syria struck yesterday by what U.S. officials suspect is an Iranian drone that killed a U.S. contractor and wounded others. ABC's Luis Martinez tells us that the U.S. struck back swiftly.
This triggered retaliatory strikes approved by President Biden yesterday as he was traveling en route to Ottawa, Canada, for meetings with Prime Minister Trudeau. And then several hours later, those strikes did take place in 2 locations inside of eastern Syria. These locations were linked to Iranian-backed militias that are believed to be responsible for all of these attacks.
An attorney for former President Trump has now left a D.C. courthouse after spending more than 3 hours in front of the grand jury investigating whether Trump mishandled classified documents.
Trump attorney Evan Corcoran did not answer any questions from reporters as he left the courthouse. Sources familiar tell ABC News the special counsel subpoenaed Corcoran to testify about a document he drafted, which was signed by another Trump attorney, certifying that all classified materials in Trump's possession had been turned over to the DOJ. That certification was later found to be false, prompting the FBI to search Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate where more than 100 classified documents were retrieved. Trump has denied any wrongdoing.
That is Faith Abube reporting. We do have some expected severe weather headed to Middle Tennessee. We'll get to that forecast for you, but that is the latest news. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
You know, some of the unhealthiest that I've been in my life was when I was at my skinniest. I got down to about 195 pounds, but I wasn't healthy at 195 pounds. I was skinny at 195 pounds. One of the things that Coach Scott and LT360 will teach you is that weight loss doesn't automatically equal health on a cellular level or on a holistic level. Now, obviously, if you're looking to lose weight, odds are you're going to do that when you start living a better lifestyle, and that includes hydration. It includes getting moving and getting a little circulation going, and it includes intake, because intake dictates outcomes. Coach Scott teaches you all of these things at LT360, and it is as simple as a telephone call. I like to say that if you bring the want to, Coach Scott and his team at LT360 will bring the how to, because they have developed it almost in a scientific, no, not almost, in a scientific way. They've developed this, and it's not just about weight loss. It's also about getting you off of some of these pharmaceutical drugs that you find yourself on. That's where Dr. Underwood comes in. So call today, or better yet, just go by on the website at LT360.com. There's always events coming up, and I'm sure that there's one right around the corner where they can explain more. But better yet, go ahead and make the journey to LT360.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to LT360.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WT and 138. Our friend Jay St. Clair, legal advice for you. And a lot of you are hitting us up on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. It's our weekly visit with Jay. We call it Fry Jay, one of the favored of many of you in the listening audience, and we appreciate that. 138. Before we get to a few of your calls and your thoughts on the Super Text line, Jay, what are your thoughts on this District Attorney Alvin Bragg, I guess it is, out of New York? I mean, I've tried to explain it to folks in a way that makes sense. It's convoluted how many hoops he seems to be jumping through to try to get a charge in a grand jury. And then it's odd in as much as we thought an indictment was coming down, but now the grand jury's not meeting about that anymore. What do you make of all of this?
Well, you know, what I tell up-and-coming lawyers in my office, Matt, is if you cannot explain your case in 25 words or less, you've got a really bad case or you hadn't thought about it enough.
Mm.
That's just a really good measure of how strong of a legal case you have. This case cannot be described in 25 words or less, man.
Nope.
It just can't. And that alone is enough to tell me that it's a weak case. It's a weak case not only on the merits, but also statute of limitations problems. The feds looked at this several years ago and decided not to prosecute. I think the prior DA looked at it and decided not to prosecute. So it's a stretch, but, it's kind of like this Atlanta grand jury, where they're trying to get him over there for something around the election. And then the foreperson of the grand jury comes out and gives interviews.
Which, Jay, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think you can do that, right?
Well, the law is different in different states, and I went and looked at the law in Georgia, and it does allow for a little bit of disclosure, not what she was disclosing, but she came across as a total buffoon. Just a total buffoon, man. And you notice we haven't heard anything about that case over there since then. But, that's the kind of people that are making these decisions. The grand jury up there, it doesn't have to be unanimous. I think it's just 2/3. So who knows what'll happen. They may indict him, but that's not the end of it. A judge can throw the case out of court, and I'm sure that they'll ask him to do that, not only on the merits, but, the claim is that they paid some woman, Stormy Daniels or whatever, a porn star, or I don't know who she is. But she claimed that she'd had an affair with Trump, and so they paid her $150,000 to quit talking about it.
Yep.
And then the claim is that somebody, and no one's talking about this, man, I don't really understand this, somebody put that down in the accounting books as legal fees instead of, payoff or hush money or whatever else you want to call it, and that was false.
Uh-huh.
Well, there is zero chance that Donald Trump is the person that made that entry into that accounting lecture. There's zero chance that he did that. And frankly, I think there's there's a very small chance that he told anybody how to code that.
Right.
My word, he's a multi-billionaire, man.
Right.
He's there. And then what has he got to hide, right? So I don't even know how they're going to prove that he's the one responsible for how this got coded into an accounting thing.
And even if they do, that's just the first part of the dang case.
That's just that's a misdemeanor.
Right.
And the statute is clearly run on that, man. It's clearly run on that. And so to have any chance of statute of limitations, they have to say that, well, you falsified a business record with the intent to commit another crime or conceal another crime. You're falsifying this record to conceal another crime. Well, what's the other crime? Well,
Well, what is the other crime, Jay? That's a great question.
They've never said. We don't know, right? They've never said that publicly. There's a lot of surmise and speculation about it, but we don't know that that's for real. But what you hear the most, Matt, is it was a violation of campaign finance, federal campaign finance laws, that this payment to her really was somehow benefited the campaign and should have been reported that way. Well, the feds have looked at it, man. It's their law. It's not New York's law. It's federal law. The people that enforce those laws have looked at it and said, no, there's no problem here.
So it's it's obvious stretch all the way around. But the goal, the goal is, I don't want to suggest that I know what the goal is,
everybody knows the goal is to get him not to run for president.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Run to not win. My word, man. It's just as obvious.
Is there a possibility that somebody gets to this DA and says, because at this stage, because Trump, he gets he gets credit for playing 3D chess sometimes when I don't think that's what he's doing. But this one was masterful. He announcing that he was going to be arrested. That puts him in a place where whatever happens, he's the winner. If they don't bring charges, he's the winner. And if they do bring charges, he wants a perp walk.
I'll say this, too. If you're going to be a real estate developer, a successful real estate developer in New York City for 40 years, you got to be tough and smart because you're going to get your teeth kicked in a bunch of times. And, buddy, he learned a lot over those 40 years, didn't he, Matt? He's a little bit of a carnival barker, I think is the word, right? But that's how you sell real estate in New York. And he's just absolutely immediate. He's a genius at manipulating the media. I agree with you 100% about that.
Well, Jay, we've got a lot of folks that want to ask you questions in a limited amount of time, so I'm going to get out of the way and start that process with Robert, who is on the line in Nashville. Robert, you're on with Jay St. Clair. What's on your mind, friend?
Yes, I have a nephew that was pulled over at like 2 o'clock in the morning just up the road from that grand old RV park. Now, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and he goes to college. He comes home on the weekend. He's driving Uber. So the excuse was pulling him over was that Metro cop said he to run over 5 cars coming up the road. And as you drive from Springfield, I doubt if you'd meet 5 cars on 41 at 2 o'clock in the morning. But
I can attest to that, Robert. I was there for about a year. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I know exactly where he's at. So anyway, they wanted to search his car. From my experience, I've always told these boys, don't ever let them search your car. Make them get a warrant.
Right.
So they bring a dog. Now, the dog comes up and sits and, touches the doorknob. So they told him they had a right to search him. Maybe he can get out of the car and search his car. So anyway, he had a pistol that he legally bought. He had his mother's pistol. And he had an AR, which is an AR pistol. Now, the pistol was in the console. The other guns were in a backpack, I do believe, and his AR pistol was in a regular gun case. But anyway, they jerked him out, took him to jail, and all that stuff. Are they legally allowed to search his car because the dog comes up and says he...
I know, this is all very fact-specific, but I don't think that that's good enough for a search, a non-consensual search.
Yeah.
Right. The reason they pulled him over, they didn't have they said he was just driving too fast or something.
Yeah, but he didn't. Well, when he's going through Greenbrier, we all know that town up through there. We always set our cruise control. I mean,
right.
What was their stated reason why they pulled him over, Robert? Do you know?
They said a Metro cop said he was driving reckless coming through Ridgetop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that alone doesn't give them any grounds to search the car. They might could do a field sobriety test for him, but I don't think that's reasonable cause to believe that there's something going on in the car. I think if he's already been charged or he's been arrested and charged, I believe his lawyer ought to argue that it was an illegal search.
Yeah, but his lawyer also, I paid for his lawyer as well, said there's a good chance that he probably won't get his guns back.
Well, yeah,
that's another deal
possible. Too. Was he legally owning the guns?
Yes,
Some of them I know were relatives.
He bought the pistol. Well, one pistol was his mother's. The other he bought at Academy Sports. The other one he ordered offline from Palmetto State Armory.
What is there? I mean, I'm just curious, Robert and Jay. Tell me if I'm getting in the way here.
What's the charge?
Yeah, what are they charging him with?
Illegal possession
of a gun.
For the AR pistol.
Why are they saying that's illegal?
That I do not know yet. But anyway, I heard him attorney out of Springfield, but he acted like he can't get his guns back. And I just, from my own experience,
that doesn't make sense to me. If they're his guns and he was legally holding them, he ought to get his guns back.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, keep me up to date. And, obviously, as you always say, Jay, some of these cases are just so very fact-specific. But it sounds to me like he might want to get a second opinion on the attorney side, too,
Right. No, absolutely.
48 after the hour. Let's see. I got what are Jay's thoughts on TikTok? Have you followed this at all, Jay? This potential that China might be spying on us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course they're spying on us. I mean, that's why I don't have speakers in my house. I don't, I'm a very private person, you know that. And listen, Google spies on us. My word. One of my law partners this morning told me she was interested in a certain car. And so we got online, and I was showing her some examples of. Well, now every time I go online, I get an ad for this car.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're spying on us all the time, man. And I have no doubt that China's spying on us. I don't know if it's through TikTok or whatever.
What I find hilarious about this discussion, though, Jay, is that Donald Trump tried to ban TikTok 3 years ago. And the liberals and people like Joe Biden called him a racist and said that he just didn't like China. I mean, and eventually a court put a stop to his attempt to ban the app because he said that it was a security risk in the United States of America. And Joe Biden signed an executive order reversing Trump's executive order as soon as he gets into office. And now that same president, Joe Biden, has come back. And this should not surprise me as many times as it's happened. Trump is proven right in his assessment. And they don't give him any credit for it. No credit.
I was going to say the same thing. It is uncanny, man. Uncanny how often he says something that even a lot of people say, well, that's outrageous. And it turns out to be true. He's a smart guy.
You and I talked about his assertion that he was being wiretapped in Trump Tower. And I was like, Jay, come on. I mean, this guy, here he goes. He's exaggerating again. Well, he was being spied on. I mean,
that's amazing. You've heard me tell the story, man, back when he was first running, right? I didn't know anything about him. I thought he was a buffoon, but I try to take people seriously. And I read his book, The Art of the Deal, and totally changed my view and impression of him. And it's remarkable how relentless the press and other politicians, but the press has been in attacking him, man. It's just remarkable. I was about to say it may be unprecedented in the country's history. I think we would all do well to know a little bit more about history. Ma, where's Paul? He's run off to Washington, D.C. I mean, you think it was bad now, man?
Oh, it used
to be. Go back to the 1820s or the 1830s.
Well, what I like to do, Jay, and you've heard me do it many times, is that when people say, boy, it's never been this bad, I say, well, sit down and let me tell you the story of Charles Sumner and Preston Brooks.
On the floor of the House.
On the floor of, they got to the Senate. Preston Brooks left the floor of the House of Representatives and went to the floor of the Senate and found Senator Charles Sumner and beat him viciously with a cane about the head and shoulders and left him for dead on the floor of the United States Senate. And wasn't
now that's an insurrection.
All right, before you go, Jay, one final question. I've only got about 40 seconds. You ready?
Yep.
Question for Jay. What is his favorite food and dessert? Just wondering if it is as colorful as his personality and accent.
Well, man, a simple pleasure. Food, it would be some kind of shellfish. I'm a very shellfish person. Dessert, it's really easy. I had these when I was a kid, when I go up to Sequatchie Valley and stay at my grandmother's house. We didn't have this in Alabama. It's a Mayfield's brown cow. It's my favorite dessert in the world. We didn't have Mayfield products in Alabama back then. A brown cow. That just, that's the Lord's food right there, man.
Jay, have a wonderful weekend. Good talking to you. We'll do it again soon, friend.
See you, buddy.
Take care. Back in a moment. It is spring painting season. That means it is outdoor painting season. Come on now, guys. Jeremy Reeves wants to come to your house. He wants to paint it. He will tell you how that goes. He will give you exact scopes and pricing. He'll let you know exactly what you're going to pay for that exterior job. And don't you need a spruce up on that home? Come on. You know you do. Now, if it's interior work, they'll get that done as well. If you need to stain your deck or stain your fence or lime wash your brick, I mean, whatever you need, they can accomplish it. If it involves paint or stain, They do it at Nashville Painting Company. Jeremy's been in business for, almost a decade now in Nashville. Before that, he was in Birmingham. He painted my house in Birmingham, and he does a fabulous job. He's got artisans, true craftsmen on his team, and a supervisor on every job. So give him a call today to schedule an appointment to get a free estimate. 615-635-0350. 635-0350. The best in the business does not have to be the most expensive in the business. And you'll see that when you see Jeremy in Nashville Painting Company. Online, NashvillePaintingCompany.com.
It is 2 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Currently cloudy and 64 degrees in Music City. We'll have the complete forecast for you in 3 minutes. During Friday's press briefing for the Pentagon, Brigadier General Pat Ryder confirms yesterday's U.S.'s retaliatory airstrikes against Iranian-backed groups that had targeted a U.S. military base with a drone strike on Thursday that injured 6, including 5 American service members and killing 1 American contractor. Here is the Brigadier General confirming the attacks that targeted 2 bases of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in eastern Syria.
2 U.S. Air Force F-15E fighter aircraft assigned to U.S. Air Force's Central and based in the CENTCOM area of responsibility struck 2 IRGC-affiliated facilities at approximately 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time, or 2:40 a.m. local. The facilities were located near Dar Zur.
18 months after announcing it, Ford Motor Company says it's still on track to start producing electric vehicles near Memphis by 2025. Governor Bill Lee was at a ceremony with Ford corporate leaders this morning to mark progress on the $5.6 billion project that is dubbed Blue Oval City.
We're positioned to be a leader in the industry for decades to come. And so it is an honor to be here with all of you as this dream comes to life.
Tennessee will build a college on site to prepare Tennesseans with an opportunity to be among the more than 30,000 people that Ford says they are going to hire. Gas stoves likely may not be an option for new homes in New York. Could that spread to other parts of the country?
With an eye toward limiting fossil fuel use in buildings, New York Governor Kathy Hochul moving to ban gas hookups in new homes, starting with smaller buildings in 2025 and then larger buildings by 2028. That, in most cases, would force the use of electric stoves and water heaters with the goal of reducing carbon emissions. Existing homes would still be able to use their gas appliances, but a second proposal would ban the use of gas or oil-powered home heating equipment starting in 2030. Worn-out furnaces would have to be replaced with an electric option. Dave Packer, ABC News.
President Joe Biden in Ottawa today. He's meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Before their closed-door meeting, the president remarking that Canada and the U.S. have no fundamental gaps in ideology to overcome in order to get things done.
All the values are the same. We disagree and agree on things occasionally, but there's no fundamental difference in the democratic values we share.
This is the first non-summit overnight visit by a U.S. president in nearly 2 decades. That is the latest news. The weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
I first got to Nashville and I inquired about a financial planner because you always need a financial planner. And I heard the name Paul Winkler over and over and over again. And I'm so glad that I did. Sat down with Paul, had a conversation with him. And that led to not only a relationship on the radio, for which I am paid, and financial regulations and government officials require me to tell you that, and I don't mind, but also a personal relationship in terms of I am his client and he is my financial guru. And I'm so happy to say that. The investment education that Paul Winkler offers you is evidence-based. It is backed by his Nobel Prize-winning research, or Nobel Prize-winning research, I should say. And frankly, folks, it is simply great to know that I have someone that's going to protect my nest egg, but that balance of protection and helping it grow to maximize its potential is so important. Everything he does as a fiduciary, meaning that he is legally, ethically, and morally obligated to act in your best interest. And he does it every single day. 10 separate offices to serve you and one telephone number to set up that free 15-minute telephone conversation with Paul Winkler. That number, 615-851-1950, 851-1950, or online, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. Here we go. It is the Matt Murphy Show, final hour of our week on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And I told you we were loaded up. Now, you call. It's a First Amendment Freestyle Friday, like Hunter's on the line. I'm getting to you, Hunter. Don't you worry. You can also super text to 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. We invite you to do that. Thanks to Jay St. Clair for spending about an hour with us. And you guys are so nice on the super text line, sending kind thoughts to Jay. And I'm going to send those along because he's a wonderful guy and he's a brilliant guy. And I appreciate having him on every week. I also appreciate a next guest coming in. She is in studio. That means that you Super Talk TV watchers can view our next guest on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. Her name is Debbie Matthews, and she joins us in studio. Hello.
You're the only person I would drive in this traffic for on Friday afternoon.
It's pretty brutal.
Today is brutal, yeah. Going south is even worse.
A lot of rain?
Not so bad, but Columbia Inn is at least an hour, you know.
Little, I forget how far south you are. Yeah, but of course I'll be down there one of these days when you find me a house.
That's right. I found one, and you let it go.
It was off. It was higgledy-biggledy. It was weird, but it was a perfect house. You're right.
Yep. It just wasn't the right time.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
It's all timing.
Don't you look like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz?
Oh, because I got my plaid shirt on?
Let's hope that doesn't portend to bad things tonight when the weather comes in, the real bad weather comes in.
So what time is that supposed to hit?
11 o'clock, something like that? 10 or 11, something like that?
Well, I knew
that's
it was
what they
coming.
say.
You know, I could feel it coming. I'm at that age where I can feel it coming.
Right in your bones?
Man,
feel it in your knees, Debbie?
It's my right foot and my left hip. I'm telling you, I'd be the best weather person in the land because I'm like, there's something coming, there's something up because, I'm hurting.
Debbie Matthews reinforcing stereotypes about talk radio. We already get accused of being a bunch of grumpy old people on the front porch. So
what's wrong with grumpy people? Not a dang thing.
I've made a tidy living being a grumpy person.
I'm telling you, they tell you the truth. And that's who you want in your life.
I rent my home. And you own your home, I assume.
I do.
So this might not apply to you right now. But I walk in, and just to give you a little sense of what we walk into, like every day, this stack of stuff gets printed out for somebody.
Okay.
And it's not for me. I don't request it anyway. But it's like a different topic selections and things going on in the world.
Yeah.
You dig through this status, birthdays.
Yeah.
Celebrities and all that.
Yeah.
Like for example, KFC has introduced Kentucky Fried Chicken nuggets.
Okay.
Who knew? It's just random.
I thought
stuff.
that was already a thing. That's how much I know.
I would have guessed that. I don't know why a chicken place would. TikTok showdown before Congress. There's a lot of things. Right on the top of and I didn't set this up. Right on the top is a lifestyle story.
Okay.
And the headline is, "Are you hiding a pet from your landlord?" I am.
Well, you're not anymore. You just let them know. How big is your pet?
Well,
is it a goldfish?
Well,
is it a gerbil?
It is not a gerbil.
Is it a gerbil? Okay.
It's not a
That's
gerbil.
good to know because,
It's not a
I was about
goldfish.
I was about to wonder.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with having a gerbil. Gerbils get bad rep.
They do.
Because
Wasn't
of
that the Richard Gere?
You creepy people over there talking about nasty things and hospital visits late at night. All right. And that's an urban legend, I think.
I hope so.
I'm going to
really
choose to.
hope so.
I've never actually looked it up, and I'm never going to.
No, I was on a train once with 2 ER physicians going through the Alps in Austria, and they were telling us some of the crazy stuff that they had seen. Come in. So
I did own a book one time, and this book is in existence, and you can find it. It's a picture book.
Okay.
And it's the 101 craziest X-rays ever taken, or something like that. And it's from ER rooms across the country, and a lot of them have to do with,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Lonely people. It's lonely.
Why do I invite you in here?
Because we have a good time. That's right. I mean, listen, it is a beautiful hour of radio when I'm here. The last time I was here, though, it was so sad, and nothing happened. We were predicting that Memphis was going to burn, remember?
I know, and thankfully it did not.
It did not. But, then I also go, where were the protesters in the streets? Because this was a televised murder of a person. What was the difference besides the cops
the color of the cops? I mean, if there were white cops involved in the killing of Tyree Nichols, then you would have seen it much more violent.
Oh, yeah. They would have paid it to yeah.
All right, but hold on. Let me explain the story.
Okay.
So I look at this, and I immediately start feeling guilty because this is me. Are you hiding a pet from your landlord? Because we're renting over Mount Juliet.
Yes.
10% of 1,000 adults who have a pet and live in an apartment are doing so despite it being banned from their rental agreement. 25% have reported doing so in the past and have felt anxious, worried, or guilty about it. 19% have covered their pet's cage or bed with a sheet when the landlord came over unexpectedly. My thing was, I have 3 dogs.
Yes.
And
I love you for that.
I counted 2 of the dogs on the rental agreement because one of the big boy, the 12-year-old, was in Montgomery with my in-laws.
Right.
Well, now he's with us.
That's right.
And we just I haven't bothered to call anybody. I think I'll be all right. My check clears every month. So
yeah, I think you'll be okay. But, I am the chair of the Maury County Republican Party, the biggest and best Republican party in the state. But my real job is real estate. And so I handle a lot of people that are transferring, especially coming into the GM plant. And the hardest thing for people to come in, especially at the last minute to get a home, is that there are no rentals that really allow pets. And it's a real struggle out there for them to find a place that allows their dogs.
So in order for us to get this accomplished in Mount Juliet, I had to give a life history of my animal. I mean, I'm not making this up.
No, I'm sure.
We had to give be very breed specific. I was not specific enough because I said mixed breed on one. They said, no, that's not good enough. We need to know what the genealogy is. I mean, and I guess it's all lawyers and insurance or whatever. So even if they allow pets, which is difficult enough to find in a rental agreement, they don't allow certain pets. I mean, if you, God love you, and I'm not trying to get in the conversation, but if you own a pit bull and you're trying to rent an apartment or a house, good luck.
Well, the problem is that so as I've done animal rescue all my life, okay, so when dogs end up in the shelter, if they're mutts and they have any type of head that looks like it's X, they automatically get called that, even though they're probably not. So it's a real shame, So I say get a DNA test on your dog and have it handy.
At the same time, I and it is, I know, a touchy subject for a lot of dog lovers and dog owners.
Yeah.
But I've said for years, I don't understand these stories that I read, and you see them where little girl, 4-year-old, 5-year-old girl gets attacked in the backyard, and the difference is when there seems to be a propensity for pit-type dogs a little more often than not to get aggressive. And I don't understand why families with young kids would take that risk, that it would be a one-off. It is rarer than some would have you believe.
Well, because the dogs that bite you the most are Chihuahuas.
Yeah, but they don't do much damage.
Well, that's the thing. But any dog can bite, and if there's more than one dog, they will pack up.
If Chihuahuas were human-sized,
oh my Lord,
they would take over.
They would. The thing is don't set your dog up for failure. you are the adult in the room, right? Don't set your dog up for failure. Don't put it with a child if it's not secured to be with the child. But you got to remember, the RCA dog was a pit bull. You also know that Spot in the Little Rascals was a pit bull. It was the American dog forever.
Oh, yeah.
And then somehow it got hijacked into this fighting sort of thing. And so they breed them to fight. They fight them.
Well, they're very protective and territorial.
They are
and
protective.
that's a good thing.
They're called the nanny dog is why
Right.
they were so popular at the time. But anyway, yes, they are very protective. So
Here's what you and I can team up to try to do. You down there in Columbia and Murray County, and me up here in Nashville.
Okay.
Or Mount Juliet or wherever.
Yes.
And we might solicit, because I don't know the answer to this, but the super texters, I found this about the super text line.
Yeah.
What a wonderful new feature.
That's awesome.
Because they'll answer your question.
Yes, they will.
Not always right, but they'll answer your question.
That's right.
Is there a 24-hour tether law in the state of Tennessee?
I do not. I don't know if it's new. If it is,
I don't think there is.
I don't think so either.
And look, I'm not trying to get into people's business, but there comes a line where we do need to get into your business. If you're abusing an animal, we need to get into your business.
Right.
And I believe that tethering an animal 24 hours a day is abusing an animal, because I've seen it.
Yep.
I've seen it too much.
Yep.
And I am an advocate to make it against the law to have an animal tethered for 24 hours a day. And you know what I'm talking about, guys. I'm not talking about having a dog on a run.
Right, to get out for some exercise and then comes in.
I'm not talking about a dog that, normally lives outside on a big long chain, but you bring him in and you play with him. I'm talking about those dogs.
A dog on the farm that's working.
I'm talking about those dogs that get tethered to a tree and get left out there with a dog house and a bowl and no human or social interaction whatsoever. That drives dogs insane. They become vicious animals because of that.
Well, what breaks my heart is when the weather does get bad and really cold. I think, all farm animals or other animals, they know how to get to warmth, or they find a hole to crawl in, or a way to shelter. And people are leaving dogs on a tether out back, and they have no way to get anywhere for shelter. So I have seen one of the worst I've seen recently was a German Shepherd that was tethered and just left to starve to death in a doghouse. It was, so
nothing will turn me to violence more than stories like this. I mean, I'm serious, because I hear people tell stories like this, and it makes me want to pick up a hammer and beat somebody.
The way people treat animals is the way I tell our DA, if you want to know who's going to be the serial killer, you start making animal abuse up front documented at an early age, because that's where it always starts, and that's the tell sign. And so I don't think there's been anybody that's been a mass shooter or serial killer that hasn't had, propensity for abuse against an animal. And that's a tell sign, and we need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, if you're not going to be compassionate to a creature lesser than, then you're not going to be compassionate to other human beings.
Right.
It's kind of a connective tissue.
There's a lot of things that we can work on together in that case. There's a lot of seniors need dogs, but they're afraid to get them because they're afraid they're past. But seniors it gives them a reason to get up and to be verbal and to take care of something, keep them company. So we want seniors to have a dog. We also
or cat
or gerbil, right? Okay, so but we also want women or men that are in an abusive relationship. They say that most of the time people will not leave an abusive relationship because they'd have to leave their animal. So we need to have a place that if someone is leaving for abusive situations, they can take their animal somewhere that will be kept safe for a period of time until this woman or man gets situated.
I'll tell you what was impressive to me when I went to visit Nashville Rescue Mission.
Yes.
And I was taken, and I apologize. I've lost her name right now, but it's one of the executive directors of Nashville Rescue Mission.
Right.
She took me on a tour of the facility.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people that they process on a daily basis, nightly basis. And right now, their women and children shelter is in the same building as their general population, because they're building a new women and children's facility.
Yeah.
I think it's on Rosa Parks, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of chaos going on. But they have a room dedicated to dogs.
Love it.
Because a lot of the homeless population have developed friendships and relationships with their animals.
Right.
And they learned years ago that no matter how – and this is a testimony to the homeless person, right? But no matter how cold it is, they're not going to go into a shelter if they can't bring their dog with
That's
them.
right. That's right.
And good for them.
Right.
But the way they solve that is they have a dog room, and the dogs get to go in there, and they get water and a little food, and they can stay in there. And I'm assuming that the people can come and visit them. And then if they get ready to go, that they could get their dogs. So I think it's a wonderful thing because it provides that release, because otherwise they'd stay outside.
That's right. And yeah. So we've got things to work on because dogs matter.
Well, they do. They do.
Dogs matter.
Columbia, Tennessee matters, too. I want to talk to you about Columbia, Murray County.
It is the best place. We got Mule Day next weekend.
Do
That's
you
one
now?
reason I wanted to come in today so we could talk about Mule Day.
Well, we will. We'll talk about Mule Day. We'll talk to Hunter on the phone who wants to talk about firearms. I promised you we'd do that, Hunter. Plus,
I love
yes,
to talk about
Steve,
firearms.
she said gerbil. She's making a joke. I don't know why. Steve says, did she say gerbil? Yes,
did.
she said gerbil. Could have gone with hamster. Could have gone with guinea pig. Nope, she didn't. She went with gerbil. It's 2:20 on Super Talk 99.7
Murphy, yes.
I told you the temperatures were going to get up to 80 degrees and beyond, and it has happened, and now it is springtime, and maybe it's time to get that AC checked. It's Matt Murphy for Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. My man Jeff Eddy wants to come out to your home. He wants to check your AC unit. He wants to make sure that everything's running as efficiently as possible. He's going to clean that bad boy and get it up to snuff for the spring and summertime months. Now, if something's wrong, he'll tell you that, but here's the thing. I trust Jeff. Well, I trust him enough to tell you that you can trust him, that if something's wrong, he'll tell you something's wrong, but he's never going to try to upsell you. All of his technicians know the same thing. Do not upsell. There's never a commission, so there's never any incentive to do so. Plus, if something's wrong, you want to trust that somebody's telling you the truth about it, not just trying to sell you a new unit. Now, those units have lives. They have lifespans, so there will come a time where you'll need a diamond contractor from Mitsubishi Electric or an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. And Jeff Eddy is both of those things with Efficient Heating and Cooling. Never charges more than $125 for a residential maintenance call, no matter how many units you have. And some homes have 3 or 4. All you have to do is make the call that others have made. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net.
President Biden is in Canada today, and a popular lawnmower brand is having some of its engines recalled. These stories and more are coming up at 2:30. I'm Jay Harper for Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 225. My good friend Debbie Matthews has stopped by for our last hour of the week. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Still have a story to tell you about. There's an update on the Stanford Law School story. I don't know if you've seen this. It is the epitome of wokeness on the college campus these days that a sitting judge attempted to, he accepted an invitation to speak on the campus of Stanford. He was shouted down. He could not get through his speech. He eventually had to call for an administrator. The administrator that came also shouted him down. And she has now been disciplined by the administration, and she's speaking back. I've got an update on that coming right after 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Debbie Matthews, you mind if I go to Hunter?
Go. Let's talk firearms.
Come on. Hey, Hunter, what's up?
Hey, I was calling because that gentleman that was on the phone about his nephew that got pulled over by the police and had his firearms confiscated and everything, and they said it was possession of a pistol. Have you heard about the ATF's regulation against pistol braces?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I don't know if a lot of people are paying attention to it, but even though they're giving individuals 120 days to register without a fee, they are already enforcing that type of stuff. So anybody that's riding around with a braced pistol is technically susceptible to being charged with a felony now. So I just, without any of the facts of that guy's case, I wonder if that has anything to do with it and how many people are really aware of that's going on, because they kind of slid it in under the table.
Well, now
I didn't know that.
The ATF has said that they were going to begin considering pistol braces the same as like an SBR, but that's still I'll have
they
to
signed the regulation on January 31st.
I thought it was immediately put into court, though. I thought there was a lawsuit that came out of that.
Well,
I could be wrong.
There are lawsuits that are attempting to try to squash it, but they essentially redefined what a firearm is, changing anything with a brace on it to be considered in that SBR category. So there's a lot of legislation that's trying to fight against it right now, but I think as it stands, they have the authority to act upon that. And then they're saying that you have 120 days to register your pistol braced ARs as SBRs without having to pay the $200 tax stamp. Otherwise, you're still going to be considered to be in possession of an SBR and an NFA item that's considered a felony.
No, it's a good instinct on your part, Hunter, that might be the reason. I just have a feeling, and I'm not taking anything away from the caller. And for those who missed it, we had a caller that asked a question of our legal expert, Jay St. Clair, about a stop that happened. I think it was on Ridgetop or in Ridgetop. And the stop was for driving recklessly. They eventually got a K-9 unit out there. K-9 unit pinged on his car. They searched his car. There was no indication there was drugs in the car, but they found several guns, and they confiscated his guns. And one specifically, they indicated a pistol that they confiscated led to his arrest. I get the feeling, Hunter, that there's more to this story than we're hearing. Now, maybe not. Maybe they're just I just don't think that you would get
I don't know.
I started to say something in the middle of saying it. I realized
I agree with you, Matt, but I also think it's quite concerning that in the event that is the case, that there's already instances out there where this is happening.
Well, they're going to sneak it in that way. That's the only way Biden can get rid of guns. He's going to do it these one-level steps at a time.
Yeah, nip it. You know, what I almost said, Hunter, is I can't believe that they would arrest someone even if they were doing it for the pistol brace. But then I stopped myself because, you know what, I don't put anything past. I'm not knocking local law enforcement. But the desire on the part of some within agencies like the ATF, the FBI, and other organizations to take our legally owned guns knows no boundaries. Right. And they will, if we do not remain ever vigilant, they are going to continue to nip away at our Second Amendment rights.
Well, you have to wonder, especially like Hunter, I don't know where you are, but if you're in Davidson County, it's a whole different ballgame than being in Murray County. You know, if you're pulled over. I mean, it's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different culture. It's a whole different everything. So,
well, on of that, I used to be in the firearm industry really heavy with a gun shop that I was working in and everything else, and I still am in the community big time, so I pay attention to a lot of that stuff. But I have a lot of friends and people that I know that do not pay attention to a lot of that stuff. So if you have somebody that's not really paying attention or in on the legislation or watching that kind of thing, that bought an AR pistol from Academy or from Palmetto State or any of that thing, and they're carrying around as a truck gun, well, now they're carrying a felony and potentially 10 years in prison and a fine in the back seat, and they don't even know about it.
Well, I'm going to have to get our DA back to a Republican meeting and tell us what are the new laws. We have our sheriff in or our DA in quite often to say, okay, tell us what is legal, what can be carried, and what's the difference.
See, that's the problem. It's not a law because the ATF circumvented the legislation and they redefined the firearm as the definition, and they just implemented a new regulation that they're trying to enact with already existing legislation. So they're bypassing legislation.
Right. In the past, they've never classified a weapon based on the way that people use it. Now they're starting to classify weapons based on their presumption of how they're using them, which is a very dangerous, slippery slope, Hunter, as you well know.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, man. It's great information and a great conversation about the Second Amendment. And you might be right. Your instincts might be correct. There might be something about the weapon that created the dynamic by which the individual would get arrested. Who knows? It is 2:31, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for news.
It is 2:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. 64 degrees under cloudy skies. We'll have the forecast for you in 2 minutes. During Friday's press briefing at the Pentagon, it was confirmed that the U.S. did retaliate with airstrikes against Iranian-backed groups that had targeted a U.S. military base with a drone strike on Thursday. Brigadier General Pat Ryder confirming that President Biden had ultimately made the decision to launch the airstrikes.
Secretary Austin, at the direction of President Biden, authorized U.S. Central Command forces to conduct precision strikes into eastern Syria against facilities used by groups affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau welcomed President Biden to the House of Commons in Ottawa today before the president addressed the Canadian Parliament.
We welcome to our Parliament the 46th President of the United States of America, President Joseph R. Biden, Jr. Mr. President, you are a true friend to Canada.
This is the first non-summit overnight visit by a sitting U.S. president in nearly 2 decades. And the Consumer Product Safety Commission has announced that about 33,100 of Kawasaki's riding lawnmower engines are being recalled due to fire hazards. The engines involved in the recall are from model years 2018 through 2022 for the Kawasaki FT730V EFI series. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief located in Franklin, and they would love to see you. Friends, it's Matt Murphy. The Dr. Gill Center is here for you when you need them. They are good at what they do, and I am a testimony because I am a client. I went to the Dr. Gill Center, met with Dr. Wendy, met Dr. Gill and the rest of the crew. Dr. Wendy sat down with me, talked to me about my issues with my back pain. We went through my paces, and she gave me some x-rays, and then we looked at them, and she diagnosed and identified a compression that I was unaware of in my upper neck, which is solved. I used to have radiating pain in my shoulders every day, and now nothing. Thank you to Dr. Winnie and the rest of the team at the Dr. Gill Center. Plus, we've gotten my back to the point where I don't have to take medicine every single day. And if you're taking pills every day, If you feel like pain is just a reality, I want you to call the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. I promise you that they can help you. And they will give you an examination, an x-ray, and a complete review of findings. All you need to do is call 615-882-4838. That's 882-4838. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Hello. My name is Matt Murphy. We host a little gathering from noon until 3. We call it the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us online. You can find us on your app. Go to 99.7 WTN. By the way, you can find us in Murfreesboro next Thursday. Be there or be square, Parthenon Grill. We are broadcasting live. I believe Mr. Wilson is there during his entire. He's Chris Webber. He's doing the entire gig down there.
That's what I understand. Yeah.
I think it would be a difficult task to get from Watertown to Murfreesboro during the news break.
Yeah.
So Brian will be down there from 3 until. We'll all gang up at 6 o'clock, and from 6 until 8, we'll have a live broadcast. You get to witness that, plus some delicious dinner from Parthenon Grill. Debbie Matthews should come.
I would love that. I've never been to the Parthenon Grill.
Well, come on.
I've heard great things about it.
Do you know how you can get tickets to this event?
How do I do that?
997WTN.com. That's 997WTN.com. Just go over there and sign up, and you can be there.
Awesome. It's an automatic thing. I get tickets.
Bring your hub.
Oh, I would love that.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Come on. A beautiful Murphy. When's the last time you were in Murfreesboro? It's a gorgeous place.
I know. It wasn't too long ago.
Nice little square.
I was selling a house over there.
It's no Columbia, but it's nice.
It is nice, but I sell Tennessee dirt. It doesn't. I don't matter. As long as it's Middle Tennessee, I'm selling it. So I like to sell Murfreesboro.
So you're telling me that we could do the Parthenon Grill Thursday night?
Yes.
And then come that weekend?
Yes.
That we could get down to Columbia for Mule Day.
Mule Day.
What is Mule Day? Are there mules?
There's so many mules. There's mules everywhere.
You said something. You were making me laugh. You said something. You rolled your eyes at me when you said that Columbia, Tennessee is the mule capital of the world.
It is.
And I said, I thought that was Winfield, Alabama.
You said somebody in Alabama. It was Columbia, Tennessee.
And you rolled your eyes at me like I just kissed a frog.
You need to come to Columbia to see this. I mean, it's a big deal. You know,
Is there a parade?
There is a parade.
Mm-hmm. Are there mules in the parade?
There's a ton of mules in the parade.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful mules.
A lot of poop.
Yeah.
I mean,
but we have beautiful roses because of that. So there's lots of roses, lots of horse poop or whatever, mule poop. But you got to remember, people come from around the world to buy mules. And people don't understand what the breed is, but...
Hold on, can I guess? I've talked about this 1,000 times, but I always get it wrong. It's a male horse and a female donkey?
No, I think it's a male donkey and a mare. Yes.
And a mare.
Yes. And so it's hillbilly science, right? Because
mules don't breed.
They do not breed. So it's hillbilly science. It's sort of like our bone thing.
It's like it's basically, if I understand it correctly, and there are plenty of mule aficionados and experts that will correct me if I'm wrong. You're probably one of them.
I don't know about that, but somebody online will.
That it is. It's basically you're taking the strength and the verve of a donkey and putting it in the size of a horse.
The size of a horse, that's right.
And so it's a stronger.
It's a stronger animal.
More
concoction.
stubborn.
So, for an example.
That's why you like mules. You're strong
well,
and
that's
stubborn
the thing
like
is
you.
every town has an ass. Columbia has a day for theirs, right? So here we are. Columbia's having their mule day. And but people come from around the world to buy mules, and especially the Grand Canyon people, because you can drive a horse or a donkey off a cliff, but a mule will not go off track. And so the mules that are used out the Grand Canyon are, some of them are bred from here.
Keith joins in on the conversation and says that it's a mule parade, not a jack. If it was a jackass parade, Joe Biden would be there.
Yes, he would be the grand marshal. Yes, but we have Mike Wolf of American Pickers going to be the grand marshal this year. Yeah, Mike Wolf.
Wait a minute, hold on. I can meet Mike through you.
Sure, he's my neighbor. He lives like a half a block away from me.
I want Wolf on my show.
Well, we'll see if we can get that. Hey, Mike, you need to call in. So, but he bought. Most people don't know American Pickers, of course, had their place here in Nashville. But
they still do, right?
They do, but they have moved the filming down to Columbia, and he bought the bike shop there on the square. So he owns a bicycle shop, because he's crazy about bikes.
Uh-huh.
And then he bought the Texaco station that's a block off the square, and he's redone this cool 1950s Texaco station. And then once a month, they will have antique cars and coffee on Saturday morning. And he's there. It's awesome. Cars and coffee.
Wait, you know famous people, Debbie.
I do know a lot of
famous
famous
you're
people.
married to one of them.
I am, but a lot of people are, I know people. You just say, "Hey, Debbie, do you know?"
Well, would you mind hitting? I mean, helping a fella out? I would love to have Mike on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he and Frank, of course, at the beginning, and I know now Frank's not associated with the show anymore.
Well, Frank's had a stroke.
Yeah, he had
and
some bad
I love
medical
Frank.
issues.
Mike, you need to put Frank. I mean, if Frank can come back on, he should. I miss that combo, but yeah.
But I am completely obsessed with American Pickers. Because I think there's a lot more to what they do than probably people think. And they watch the show and they think, well, we can just go out and just find all of these wonderful things and get them for cheap and turn around a profit and make money. And it's a lot harder than that.
It is. Well, he's got a store to sell it in. So he's got an end user place for people to go. But I love that I'm not a person I'm not a disposable person. I believe in keeping things that are older and not turning things.
That's the sweetest way to call yourself a hoarder that I've ever heard.
I'm not. No. I have a 1910 house. I live in a historic house.
All right. Well,
my house has seen the Spanish flu and World War I and World War II, and it's lived to tell the tale. It's the most beautiful house. And we always have mulejitos and Bloody Muleys on Mule Day. It started about 8:30. I think it's a local reason to drink at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's really
it's 5 o'clock somewhere. There's always a reason to drink.
So anyway, so let me know if you're coming down.
Well, yeah. I mean, first, yes.
Okay.
But secondly, what is a mulejito? That's like a mojito, but
yeah, we just call it. I call it.
It's the same thing.
This is my concoctions at my house, so it's a mojito, but it's in.
It's a party at the Matthews residence at 9 o'clock on Mule Day morning.
Well, If we have to, yes. Everybody shows up at my house because it's like a block off from the square, or 2 blocks from the square, 3 blocks from the square, but a block from the parade route. So,
what are they doing with that corner? You know what you were running for mayor.
Yes.
That shop on the corner that you were using as a headquarters.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
It was a fabulous corners, and I can't believe that somebody's not snatching that up and refurbishing it and doing something with it.
Well, a family owns it, and they own a lot of property in Columbia, and they just want a renter in there right now.
Let me tell you, that if you are not familiar, Columbia is like Franklin before Franklin popped.
Oh, Franklin was just a bus stop on the way to Columbia.
But
it
you know
always
what I'm
has
saying?
been. Yeah, no, Columbia, listen, is a thing. Columbia is... Well, Murray County used to be the richest county in the state forever. Politics always collides in Murray County. All 3 presidents from the state were at one time in Murray County. Polk, Jackson, and Johnson. Johnson was a tailor apprentice.
Wait a minute. Are we counting Johnson?
Yes, we are counting Johnson.
Okay, whatever.
Well, he was a tailor
Turncoat.
apprentice. Well, there's that. But 2 blocks from my house. So the history of Murray County is amazing. And then we do have a Civil War museum there now at Elm Springs. That is one of the best historic sites in the country. So everybody needs to come and visit that.
I've never heard about the Battle of Columbia. I've heard about the Battle of Franklin, though.
No, the Battle of Spring Hill was really where it was.
I'm just trying to get your dander up.
Oh, yeah, no. So we'll talk about the Battle of Spring Hill sometime.
What is Mule Day? I mean, is it just the parade, or is it just a lot of?
It's like 4 days worth of stuff, at the fairgrounds and mule pull-ins, and they even have gospel singing on Sunday morning. They have a church service and some singing, and then they have a liars contest, which I'm a sponsor of this year.
A liars contest.
A liars contest, which is hysterical.
Oh, I want in on that.
Yeah, you'd be great. We need to get you registered.
I mean,
for that.
what are the rules?
I'll get them for you. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but you just have to lie and be.
I mean,
convincing.
you just have to tell a lie.
Yeah, you have to be convincing.
Is it like what
it's
was
tall
the old
tales?
What was the old? Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you need to do that. I think it'd be awesome. Listen, Columbia is I call it our little jewel box. I mean, it's the most amazing place in the world.
No, well, you invited me down
Yes.
for that was what was it called? A First Friday or whatever?
It was a First Friday. So on First Fridays,
Mhm.
It's food and music and everything. Shops.
And
are
look,
open.
I fell in love with the town, and I told you at the time, if Columbia were 15 minutes closer to Nashville, I'd live there right now.
You know what? You marry the house, you date the distance. You get used to the distance. Just buy a house.
I get it. I get it.
It is. I mean,
How many people
Wilson's
live in
out there
Columbia?
in Wart Trace or
I
wherever
mean,
the hell
Wilson is out there in the middle of. I've been to his house.
and he's your drive time guy.
You just go to the middle of Plum Nelly. You know what Plum Nelly is?
That means
It's Plum out in the county and Nelly out the state.
Well, my
is what
husband
Plum
say
Nelly
that's
is.
where the hoot owls do bad things to the chickens. That's
And,
what he was saying.
Yeah, well, you got to. My grandpa used to say, we live so far in the country, they had to pipe into the sunshine.
Oh wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where Wilson is. He's out in the middle of. I mean, if you just go and look for the biggest house within a 10-mile square radius, and that's Brian Wilson's home, right?
See, so you could live in Columbia. You could live in Columbia.
I'll post up.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
You just got to decide when all this falls down where you're going to be, since your revolution's not going to be televised.
Thank you for my little sign reference. Our Super Talk TV listeners will see it over the corner of my shoulder.
Yes.
But the revolution. You like my TV?
I do. It's fantastic. I don't know where the camera is yet. So
it's right here.
Oh,
that's yours.
Hi there.
I don't know if you're on it. I assume that you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably out of kilt, but this is new.
On Super Talk TV for the first 2 weeks that we did this, I pulled it up on one of my computer screens and watched. And then I realized that I was paying way too much attention to how I was looking and the way I was looking, and it was distracting from the show. And so now I just don't look. I just pretend it's not there.
You should do that because you look great. Everything's fine. It's all
I
in
don't
focus.
have a boogie, do I?
No, but that is a concern. You always have to.
Thanks, Mace.
No problem. I get to look at your big, beautiful face on here.
Yeah,
That's
thanks,
good.
Mason. I appreciate that.
So, did you hear that they found emails of Biden's actually talking to Hunter about how to be the board CEO for these places? That just came out on my way in today. So we got big things to talk about.
There's no doubt, and I know I've been remiss in the breaking news, but you're right. I mean, the Hunter Biden saga is one that has it's been a slow roll because the media is so loath to report on it. Absent, your Newsmaxes or your Fox News or your talk radio, WTN,
right.
then they won't report on this. There's no question, and I defy you to tell me this isn't so, that if this were not a Democrat, they would be under the jail by now.
That's correct. Absolutely.
I mean,
we're in deep doo-doo, to put it nicely, but the press is they're against us.
Well, in the partisan fashion in which the DOJ is doing their jobs, I've long called for a complete dismantling of the FBI because the FBI was all by design, and it's unavoidable. By the FBI's design, it was always going to butt up against our basic civil liberties. But at the very least, we had an expectation that it was nonpartisan, that it treated each individual, regardless of their political ideology, fairly and equally.
Right.
And they're not doing that anymore.
No. And they're not even pretending to do it anymore.
And they're not even pretending, and they need to be dismantled. And I understand that they do some important things. Some of those things can be farmed out temporarily while we figure out what to do with that organization because it is too far gone from the head up.
Yeah.
Or head down.
Yes. We are, yeah. It seems like I'm unsure of any of our systems anymore, whether it's the FBI or the CIA or our voting systems. Things that we used to take for granted and said, this is one of our institutions that I feel 100% about. And now I don't feel 100% about any of them, which is really sad. After November the 3rd of 2020, when the whole country's media immediately turned its back on its conservative citizens and said, you are not worthy to be talked about. You're not worthy to have a voice. You've got to go somewhere else. We're going to get rid of you off of Facebook, YouTube, whatever. That was the day that they severed sort of this country. And it has forced Republicans and conservatives to say, okay, we are going to be independent of our these media conglomerates, and we're going to find our news somewhere, and we're going to be honest and truthful about it.
Well, and at the same time, I will say this, in the spirit of honesty, it is beyond disgusting when people start sending powder and stuff. I mean, I understand that the DA in New York, have you heard about the story? They sent like a package with powder in it to the district attorney with a threat that the threat was literally, quote, I will kill you.
Okay.
Look, one, this is an insane person that needs to be arrested. Two, do not resort to that sort of thing.
No.
It does not help the cause. The cause is helped by truth and openness and honesty instead of this kind of nonsense.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that the people of New York know that we watch your crime every day, and we see this DA not arresting anybody, not putting anybody in jail, but yet he's spending your resources and your golden treasure on this. And it is a political hit. So we know it. Everybody stay calm and don't do anything stupid.
Stay calm and go have mojitos at Debbie's house on Mule Day.
That's right.
Which is what? Not this weekend, but next week.
It's a week from tomorrow. A week from tomorrow.
How fortuitous that you were in. Thank you for coming in.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very sweet. Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
Thank you.
You know we're open.
Awesome.
It's 252 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As I leave here at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I will get in my GMC truck. I will head 65 south. I will go to Franklin. I will go right on the square, right next to Gray's Drugstore, and I will walk my Happy Fanny into Savory Spice because I have some spices to pick up for the weekend. Ladies and gents, if you have upped your food game, right? You're grown people. You're in your late 20s, your 30s, maybe your 40s, whatever your age. And you've decided that you're not going to get the cruddy cut of meat anymore. You're going to up that cut of meat, or you're going to get a nice piece of salmon, or you're going to get the nice veggies from the farmer's market. But then you go to your crummy cabinet with your crummy spices, and they're 5 or 6 years old, and you got them from a grocery store or something, and they're just not up to the standards that they need to be. You need to up that spice game in order to up that food game, and you do that at Savory Spice. They have 2 locations to serve you, and they have every variety imaginable of spice. I mean, I've told you about my obsession with the Alderwood smoked sea salt, and I am obsessed with it. I'm putting it on everything. My wife says I'm a little bit crazy. But you've got all sorts of salts. You've got all sorts of different spices and spice combinations right there at Savory Spice. They can actually give you dinner ideas right there in the shop. Off the square in Franklin or in L&L Market on Charlotte Pike in Nashville, go by and tell them I sent you to Savory Spice.